Oh, welcome to an international version of Workshop Wednesday today. And we're all in different locations. So I'm in Seattle, Washington at my son's house. And Rachel, where are you today?
I am in New Jersey. I'm on the Jersey Shore.
All right. Spend your weekends at the Jersey Shore, like the song says. But no, it's actually Wednesday.
Yep.
And uh, and we're joined today by Ash from nettTracker. And where are you? Because you get the international label today.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Yes, I'm in the UK, United Kingdom, in the east, in the sort of countryside a little bit. So Cambridge is the sort of the closest city, if you like.
Got it, got it. So we had a couple weeks ago, Rachel and I were talking, and we demoed the fixed asset depreciation. Very exciting workshop that we we did there, and in QuickBooks Online Advanced. And I wanted to share that in the comments here. So if you hadn't caught that a couple weeks ago about the depreciation calculator that's in QuickBooks Online Advanced, you can certainly check that out on our YouTube channel. Appreciate that. But the whole thing about that is that there's a yeah but when it comes to depreciation calculation in QuickBooks Online. You got to be on QuickBooks Online Advanced in order to do those things. And there's other things that are involved with um, that kind of lead into the depreciation calculator. So one, if you're not on QuickBooks Online Advanced, what do you do with fixed assets? And then there's other circumstances. And so we wanted to bring Ash on from nettTracker because he has a really cool um, application that feeds into QuickBooks Online. So talk a little bit about Ash, the genesis of nettTracker, because did you just create this out of the blue, or was this out of a necessity?
So yeah, it didn't just come out of the blue, Dan. So a little bit, not quite. A little bit of background on me. So I've worked in accounting and bookkeeping for quite a while. The last 10 years, been heavily involved with QuickBooks training in the UK. So I'm sort of one of the UK TWN, if you like. So I used to travel around basically all of the countryside doing classroom training, and now it's all webinar based. But while I was doing that, because I started off with QuickBooks Desktop, and then in 2014, basically everything went online. And while I was doing lots of training, I had my own little bookkeeping practice as well. And some of those clients had, management reporting requirements. And I also used to work for a firm of accountants, and part of that job involved preparing accounts at the end of the year. And basically, I'd always get to the point where I'm doing something and there is fixed assets to deal with. So it's a case of, okay, well, I've got a list of the assets and I know what the depreciation is at that particular point in time, but have they bought any new assets? And if they have, they've got to go onto that schedule. And now I've got to calculate that depreciation, and I've got to do all the journal entries and everything. And I just thought, there's got to be an easier way of doing this instead of opening up a
Because it's
spreadsheet.
not like you're not busy in the month of January when
Yeah,
it comes to.
or
Let's just add that to the mix, right?
yeah, or maybe any sort of particular time. And I thought, well, there's got to be an easier way of doing this than just opening up spreadsheets, doing what I need to, creating journals. I had this basically this idea, this concept had been sort of in my mind for probably since the first QuickBooks Connect that I went to in the UK, which was probably about 2015, 16. I've been thinking about this, but then it wasn't until 3 years later that I happened to sort of meet someone that I could create it with, really. But it's been brewing. It was brewing for a while.
So tell us a little bit about what more than, and we'll go into a little high level demo in a bit, but what more can nettTracker do than a depreciation calculation?
So, I mean, as well as your depreciation calculations on the, in fixed asset terms, it will do disposals and pretty much anything that you need to do with a fixed asset, we can make an entry for. But my sort of end goal, if you like, with what our software does is that there's lots of areas within accounting that when you get to an end of a period, whether it's a month end, quarter end, year end, that you need to make adjustments for. So whether that is you need to do your accruals to accrue for costs that haven't happened, whether it's to prepay your costs because you've paid all these things in advance and they relate to your future periods. So you cost your income that might need deferring, lots of little things. We've got on the way, we've got, loans, you've got a loan, you've got interest that needs calculating and does all that balance up. And historically, all of these things basically have always been done on, a dozen or so different spreadsheets that are probably in ultimate, not all in the same place as well. So when you try to do a set of accounts, you think, oh, where did I have that spreadsheet? Well, it should be in the folder that I've had everything else in, but chances are it could have been lost or saved somewhere else. But
that's how I've always done it as well. And I mean, just FYI, that's how they teach you how to do it. So It's always, they teach you how to do it in Excel. So that's sort of the default that, you're sort of expected to do everything externally like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite often and I get this from an accountant's point of view, that you've used, what you're used to using and it's there and it works. And so when you think about changing to something else, there's always that bit of, well, I'm used to doing what I am doing. But if I, can try to automate as much as that as possible and then make sure everything ties in with what should be on the balance sheet. I've got this thing about making sure that if I've got a value there in my report, that should tie in exactly with what's on my QuickBooks balance sheet report.
Oh yeah, that's my jam. Anything I can automate 100%, like what you're doing is for people like me, because if I want something automated, if I can automate it, for sure.
Yeah, that way you can spend more time at the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Instead of
I gotta take these kids out for ice cream as soon as we're done. Like, we're busy.
The natives are restless there at the So I'm going to share Ash's screen here, and he's going to walk us through a little bit of high level of what you can do inside of a nettTracker.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dan. So, I mean, I'm logged into a company. This particular one, I've sort of messed around with it a lot. So I've got a financial year here at the top, which is running from January to December 25. And just in case anyone spots that date that says 31/12, if you are in the US, it says 12/31, because I get asked that quite a lot. And also when I'm looking at my values, I've got a pound sign and it would have a dollar sign in every US company. So I've got on my sort of current financial year at the top. And then
so
below,
Ash, so sorry to interrupt you. Just really quick. So do you do you have a switch where if I'm a US user, I can set it to US and then everything will be in US dollar and all the settings and that kind of thing?
So when we're connecting to QuickBooks, if you're setting up a file and you're connecting to QuickBooks, it will basically set up how the QuickBooks file is set up.
Okay, so whatever native currency it's set up, it'll follow whatever that is.
Yeah, it detects what the financial year is. It detects the currency that's used and where you're located, basically, and it will put those settings in.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
From there,
which is a good call out, because I'm sure that's a question that a lot of people will have. Like, well, he's in the UK. Is this only for the UK region? Does it work with all regions of QuickBooks, like Canada and Australia, or is it just specific regions?
Yeah, basically anywhere in the world where you've got a QuickBooks company file.
That's awesome.
I mean, India, Singapore. We've got people using it. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa. Everywhere.
Cool.
People using it, and sometimes, occasionally, when people create a company, if we've not detected that region before, so when we're looking at so on this fixed asset register sort of status area, it's looking at this external balance, which is basically looking at the QuickBooks report, the balance sheet where it says fixed asset totals, and it's bringing through that total. In some countries, so like Canada, I think the fixed asset total might say total plant, machinery and equipment. And in another country, it might say total fixed assets, and another one, they've got some slightly different names. And so if we have a brand new country that we've not seen before, sometimes we don't detect that total, but then quite quickly we fix it, basically.
Okay.
It should be anywhere. So if I'm looking at this fixed asset area, I'll just make that slightly bigger so you can see it a bit better.
Thank you.
Is that I've got a total there which is based upon my asset register, and below that is what's coming through from QuickBooks, and I've got a difference there of £4,500 for me, and that's because within my QuickBooks a minute ago I put on a new supplier bill which was for some computer equipment, and that's for a laptop and a printer. And back in nettTracker, if I choose to view my transactions, those two entries have come through based upon the supplier bill. It could be an expense or however it's created in QuickBooks, basically. And because I coded that particular supplier bill to computer additions, I've got an asset group in nettTracker called computer equipment. So I can simply, from here, where it's in the state of pending, like a bank feed, if you like, from here, I can choose to create the asset off the back of that entry, and it's bringing through what was on the supplier bill, which was the details of the asset that's purchased, when it was purchased, the date put into service, which I can change. It defaults to be the same as the purchase date, the asset group, which is a computer equipment, and I've got a default depreciation rule against that, 5-year straight line, but I can change that if I need to. And if I'm using classes or locations in QuickBooks, I can turn those features on in nettTracker and they'll filter through as well. So I'll just click OK to add that, and I'll just add the other one as well. So if I pop back to the dashboard now, and that refreshes, now my asset register has been updated. I don't have any difference between the asset register and the balance sheet because I've captured absolutely everything. If I look at the asset register, this is made up of however many asset groups I have. I've only got 2 here, which is computer equipment and motor vehicles. And if I go to the last page of this asset group and just come down, oh, no, that's not the last page. So within my asset group, I've got the names of the assets and locations, references if used, when they were purchased. So all your standard, asset register stuff, what it cost, depreciation from a prior year, depreciation in the current year. And if I just scroll down to the bottom of this, I've got the laptop and printer I just added, and they're in this sort of current year additions, the 3,000 and the 1,500. So that's why I've got those additions. I've not put any depreciation through for those assets yet. If I looked at my depreciation forecast, let's change that page size. That asset that I just bought, the laptop and printer, I've got the forecast depreciation that's running through for the rest of this current year. So where they're in blue, it's sort of future depreciation to be updated and journaled into QuickBooks, and where it's in green, it means we've calculated it and posted the journal entries. And if I were just to update the last month. So at the moment, my next month end is March 25. So if I just updated that, and let's say we're going to post March 25, and it's now run forward to March or April 25. And if I update the asset register balance, these values have changed, but stayed in line. And the asset register for those two assets have now got depreciation £50 and 25. It's just been posted for that last month only.
It's that easy.
But you can set it to automatically post. Yes, you don't have to go.
Basically my main initial idea of nettTracker for people that don't need to do like even monthly reporting, you can literally turn this on for fixed assets and set it up, and only really need to log into it once a year.
Yeah.
So in the settings, you can basically say, enable monthly journals.
Okay.
Enable auto detection of new asset purchases, and if you detect a new asset purchase, you can automatically add it there. So if you've got computer equipment, so that could have detected those purchases. We've got a default depreciation rule of 5 years, so it would detect the purchase, and you can set a threshold for the value. So you can say, well,
I see.
because
so it sees it in the bill when you enter the bill in QuickBooks. If it's coded to that account, when you put it in, it'll catch it on this side, and it'll see, oh, it's over a threshold and it's going to this account. It automatically will put it in this register and set it up. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because if someone supports some office supplies that was at $25, do they really want to go on the asset register? Probably not.
Exactly.
But
not going to depreciate your ink.
Yeah, exactly. You probably don't need to do that. But the thing is, even if that did happen, and it may do, so if one of those assets went on by mistake, it was a duplicate, and I started posting the depreciation. If I delete the asset, so if I selected an asset and chose to delete it, there's a delete option. And when you do sort of go through this sort of check, you can say, do you want to reverse any depreciation, and when do you want to do, what date do you want to do that? So it will automatically create a journal to reverse any depreciation that you didn't want to go through.
Cool.
Because well, again, if I just deleted the asset and didn't do that, and the depreciation's already in the balance sheet, then straight away my balances aren't going to agree, because I've got $25 of the depreciation has been posted, and I'll have a difference. So even if I delete the bill and delete the asset, if I don't reverse the depreciation, things don't agree. So
Ash, we had when Rachel and I were talking about the QBO fixed asset, there were three main depreciation bases, three bases of depreciation. And do you follow those main three ones, or do you have all of the?
Yeah, I think they were they had straight line, maybe double declining, and maybe something else.
So in terms of
whether or not you wanted to depreciate it all, in a straight line, or balloon it up front.
Oh yeah, look at him. He's got all kinds of different ones.
So with the depreciation rules, you've got we've got a few different methods really that we can follow. So in terms of, so if I went to create, there's about a dozen that are in here by default, a mixture of straight line, reducing balance, double decline. If I wanted to create another rule, you just give the rule whatever name you'd like, basically, and then you've got some different types. So straight line over a number of years, even though it's even if a 5 year straight line, all of our adjustments are always monthly, so that would just create 60 adjustments for depreciation over 5 years. Reducing balance, which is just your percentage, your declining balance, and then we've got the double decline over the number of years, and we've got straight line over a number of months. So if you've got leasehold improvements is a good example, where sometimes the thing that you're depreciating is not going to be exactly 3 years, because you're only going to, you've got, well, I don't know, 42 months left leasing that building that you're in with the improvements in. So we don't do part years. So we need to do a straight line month so that we can make sure that it's over the exact number of periods that you need. And we've got some ideas of putting some other things in here. So we're in the middle of actually creating what's like a brand new version of nettTracker. I mean, people that are already using it will just migrate onto that, but it's a different sort of user interface. And at the moment, where we've got a fairly sort of strict financial year, what we're also going to have is the ability of people could adjust depreciation at any time. So if they looked at one of their assets and thought, actually, I want to go straight in and put £2,000 worth of depreciation in now, in this year, and then just let it write off the rest over whatever, people could do that. So there's loads of extra little things in there to come.
So you're not locked into something if you've set it and you need to change it.
Yeah, I mean, people can do that now. I mean, if people or someone has put in an asset and selected, let's say, 5 years straight line, then it could be at this point in time the total cost of the asset was $5,000, and at the moment over 1 year we've written off $1,000, so the net value is $4,000. But actually, I might think, no, I'll change that to 3 year, so I've got 2 years left. So what nettTracker will do, it never calculates depreciation based upon original cost. It always calculates it based on what's the net value that's left.
Got it.
So okay, so you've got 24 months left. You've got $4,000 net value. So it will be 4,000 divided by the 24 months, and we'll write it off over that period in time instead.
Okay.
Now we had a quick answer from the past week, so it was like serendipitous that you were coming on because of the three of us, I'm not the accountant in the room. The situation was they had a vehicle and it was totaled in a car crash. So what about disposal of like what is the accounting thing to do, Rachel or Ash, about they were depreciating it off? Does that all go to depreciation, or do they go to a different account to basically reduce the value to nothing at that point because it's disposed of at that point?
Ash, you can explain how you would do that in as it pertains to your app.
Okay. Yeah, sure, no problem. So if I'm looking at my assets, if I've got any motor vehicles on here, I've got one left. So this particular car has got it cost $50,000, and the book value of this at this point in time is 32.5. So if that was wrecked, basically we could choose to dispose of it. When you dispose, you put in the date of disposal. So I'll just select a date here, which is going to be for the 15th of April in there. If we had any sale proceeds from that, I can note it, although sale proceeds in nettTracker doesn't actually create an invoice. So this is more like a notional value, because the sale invoice should be raised in QuickBooks for this, or you record your deposit for the money that you might receive. But if we had nothing and it was just scrapped, then I could choose to just leave that at 0. And then I can click OK. Now, what that will do is we'll mark that as disposed, and that will show now that I basically got a loss in my accounts. And if I go to take a look at the journal that's just created, it's based on, depending on how I've set up my account mappings, because it will take the value out of my balance sheet. So it's reduced my balance sheet by 50,000 for the cost. It has put 17,000 back in the balance sheet because that's depreciation that was provided But overall, I've got two values which have gone to this account in the profit and loss for gains and loss on disposal, which net off to 32,500. So in fact, if I looked at my reports, and let's look at the profit and loss for, and this is for April 25. And if I ran that report, so I can see that I've got, and actually I'll just go from the 1st of January. We've got some other entries in here.
So essentially, and as I'm watching you do this, you will pre-map those sorts of things for disposal of assets, whatever that happens to be, and then if this is a specific thing that they wanted to show itemized out on their profit and loss, total asset, total loss of vehicle or what have you, they could either create a new account, change the transaction, or just notate that transaction in a memo or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I mean, every asset group when it's created is mapped to your chart of accounts for different reasons. So we map it to detect the new asset purchases that come through, to detect or to choose what accounts are used when your depreciation is journaled each month, and what accounts you'd like to use when you dispose of an asset. So that means that really, whenever you do anything, then you don't have to think about what double entries you need to do, because the nettTracker will just do it for you.
Yeah, because if you have it maybe against a note payable or something like that, and then you get maybe an insurance payout or something like that, it can go against the note payable. You probably wouldn't have a disposal expense. It all just kind of depends.
Yeah.
That's what I told them.
Don't you just love that? It always depends. Well, it just depends on what your setup of that. If it's a vehicle, like if it's a vehicle you own outright, then then yes, you would have a loss on disposal.
They were carrying a loan on it, so they still had to pay off the loan and all that stuff. So it's the adult diapers answer of accounting.
It depends.
Yeah, if they've got a loan against it, it gets a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
And so with nettTracker, not just you'll have a client dashboard in essence, right, where you'll be able to switch between the different clients. So this is an organization of your spreadsheets of what we were talking before, right?
Yeah. So basically, when you're logged in as an accountant, one of the first places that you you can see when you log in, or actually, depending on how often you log in, usually the last company that you worked on opens up immediately. But then if you need to open up a different client, you just go back to your view companies, and they're all sort of listed.
I love that. Because one of the things for me is sometimes I have a hard time with an app if they don't have a really nice and easy to understand accountant dashboard, because sometimes I don't know why, just sometimes they don't think of that. So for me to be able to easily see on a dashboard my different clients and organized in a nice way. Now I was going to ask you, because you had brought this up before, or not you had brought it up, but we had asked you about this before. If I have lots of different clients in my dashboard, and that each of those clients, that it's connected to their QuickBooks, and if their home currency is not necessarily US dollar, in other words, it can connect to different home currencies in one accountant user. Yes.
Yeah. So that it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I could be logged in, and I could be working on one company that's in US dollars, one that's in Canadian dollars.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure, because I wasn't sure if it had to be like an independent file that was connected to their home currency, but those were just like business users. But so an accountant user, I can connect several different QBOs, and those individual ones can be in different home currencies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And in some instances, so as a dependent, it doesn't matter really who pays for the subscription. So an accountant could just decide to set it up, and because it makes their life easier, they'll set it up and they'll use it with their clients. Sometimes their clients just don't even know that their accountants are using nettTracker. Sometimes they'll have business owners or the accountant in business, in industry, that is using nettTracker, and then they'll invite an accountant to log into it and view it. So there's basically there's no sort of restrictions on users. So you can have as many within a practice as well.
Oh man, that's nice.
That was my next question. Is that is it per, like, can you have team members and invite team members and grant them access to certain clients?
So if I'm looking at my organization and looked at my sort of details and looked at so there's my contacts and users. So within here, I've got different users, different email addresses, and if I can edit the user, which is basically their permissions really, and I can update which companies they have access to. So I can add a user, just like you do in QuickBooks, but they don't necessarily have to have access to every single one of the clients that's in here. So it could be that they've only got access to a couple. So I can see that I've got there's basically 3 levels of access, which is no access at all, the standard user, which can do add assets and press the button to process the depreciation. An owner sort of has the administration rights, so in terms of changing company admin settings, changing the financial year, and adding other users, that sort of thing. That's what the owner can do.
Okay.
And then as far as like the model for the application itself, is there a cost per company, or do you have like a tier where it's a group of companies, or how does that work typically for nettTracker in general?
So current pricing at the moment is so there are sort of tiered levels. So and it's the same with really pricing for an accounting firm or for a business, but it tends to benefit the accountants more if they're adding more companies. So if you have one single company, it's £15 a month, and all of our pricing is in pounds. So that's approximately, I think, $19 the current rate. As soon as a company adds, like company number 2, and company number 2 is £2.50. So if you've added if you've got 5 companies as an example, so you've got 4 companies at £2.50 and one at 15. So your 5 companies is basically then £25. So when you average it out, then that's £5 a company, or $7 a company, and then as once you've got sort of 10, 20, then it's sort of when you average it out again, it's a lot less.
Right. Now we have you've been nice enough to offer a promo code for folks watching. So I wanted to, where is it now? There it is. So there's a QR code on here. If you use the promo code SCHOOL 2024, you actually get a 90-day free trial of nettTracker to try it out before that first. So that gives you an opportunity to add all those 5-10 clients to minimize the cost of that first company connection.
I love that, because I just, like I always explain to people, like we're not in we're not in 2007. We don't need to be in Excel anymore.
Right, get out of the spreadsheets.
We've moved beyond.
Yeah, I had a little story. I could say a little story about. I think I lost a client once about 10 years ago, and I said we're not in 1990 something, because they insisted on sending everything over in a spreadsheet.
Oh my God! Okay, so I'm not the only one that says 2007 called. Like they asked for your spreadsheets back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm not always that sassy.
Yeah, I meant
clients.
it slightly in jest, but unfortunately, she took much offence to that. And so.
Well, I've definitely gotten in trouble for that before too. I actually had somebody get not very happy with me. They thought I didn't know how to use Excel. And I was like, no, that's not exactly it. It's just that we've moved beyond where we're automating things, people. Like, we don't want to have to go into. But my biggest gripe with it is that, sometimes I'll have a new client or something like that. And, they just want to send spreadsheets back and forth over email. And, I have to explain, like, no way. Like, I just can't do it like that. Because it's just a big mess. So really, I mean, this is the best of everything, to manage everything in a cloud-based dashboard that feeds into QuickBooks, and you can manage multiple clients at a time. And it's the greatest thing ever.
Well,
Sliced bread is the sliced bread to seal of approval from Rachel. That's pretty good. And this will only connect with QuickBooks Online. Is there a way to export things or things if they do have QuickBooks Desktop, or is it that's not really the whole idea of nettTracker?
Yeah, so you can use nettTracker standalone. So if you are using QuickBooks Desktop, you can even with your QuickBooks Online, when you set it up initially, you can import your existing assets. So there's a template to download, copy details into it, and upload. So you've got your starting position. Then in terms of if you are using desktop, then to get your sort of monthly depreciation values, if I were looking at the depreciation forecast, then I can download that into Excel. I'd need to sort of subtotal it by because once it's downloaded, it will show you the asset group. So you'll be able to subtotal it by asset group to get your monthly charge, to get your values. One of the things that we're bringing through in our new version while we're working on it is the ability of actually downloading a journal, because in the background, we are creating, even when it is standalone, we are sort of creating the journal entries, but no one can actually see them. So that's what our next sort of on our list. If it is standalone, download the journal. And also, and what we've had occasionally is even when people are connected, they can obviously, all the journals should be posting exactly as they need to. But,
are you able to bring them down as a QBT file, or are they as a like an IIF or Excel file?
Yeah, as an Excel file for the journals. But yeah, so occasionally some people will delete the journal in QuickBooks by mistake, and they say, "Oh, I've deleted that journal. Can I have it again?" And at the moment we can't, but that's one of those things that we are sort of working on, so people can just get the journal again whenever they need it.
Can I also ask you? This is it works with all QBO subscription levels, yes, including Simple Start.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't tried it with Ledger yet. I meant to.
Oh yeah, I don't
know. I would imagine there wouldn't be a problem with Ledger, because Ledger is Simple Start without customers.
Yeah.
So so essentially you'll have the same back end functionality, everything but customers. So anything sales related, which wouldn't be what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
You're talking about the asset side, the business side of things. So this is a great addition.
Because especially if it's Ledger's primarily used by accountants, and so this would be something that they would really like, especially if they've got lots of fixed assets that they need to manage.
I'm trying to do the foreign currency exchange of $10 for Ledger, and then £2.50, as you said, for the additional client. So that's like what, $3 or something like that, or about. So that's like $13 for for basically an accounting suite of write-up work.
Yeah.
And then you do other things in addition to fixed assets, as we talked about. So like the prepaid expenses, or revenue recognition, if you want to split something out over a course of additional months to recognize that revenue, right?
Yeah, so at the moment, we can make adjustments for either accrued income, deferred income, prepaid expenses, or and accrued. Oh, did I say that twice? Oh, twice. I forgot which ones I said. There's 4 options. You've got the option. If I were to look at my accrual and prepayment groups, so here I've got accrued expenses and prepaid, and if I were creating additional groups, so these are my types basically. Yeah, accrued expenses, accrued income, prepaid expenses, and deferred income, and I've just got the sort of the 2 types within here at the moment, and you can have multiple sort of items or types within your group. So these are your balance sheet accounts. I've got 2 prepaid balance sheet accounts. Sometimes I'll just have the one usually, and the benefit of having nettTracker is that you don't really need to have umpteen different balance sheet accounts, because we're sort of keeping an eye on them really. So if I were looking at my sort of statement of prepaid expenses.
Oh, this is cool. So you have a whole schedule here in this back end, and then you just have one line on your balance sheet. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So this sort of basically a spreadsheet, but within software, is showing me the date.
One less spreadsheet.
It's not a spreadsheet. It's a statement. Yeah. That shows this is my current level value of prepayments per this list, and that's the current value of prepayments that's in the balance sheet, and they should always agree. So as they are being added in different ways, so I can see the ones that are in green are in a 0 because they've basically been fulfilled. They've been the prepayments have been released, and these others have still got months left to go. And if I look at my sort of projections, go to my prepaid. So this shows me all the adjustments that are left over currently over the next financial year. So I can see there I've got different adjustments going through each month. And again, I can download that into Excel if I want to look, what am I expected to go through in total next month. And they work pretty simply, really. It's just a case of creating the prepayment, choosing how many months it needs to be released, and then what profit and loss account is going to be adjusted.
That's great. I mean, Rachel, you've kind of seen this as a blind reaction. What is your initial takeaways of the nettTracker tool?
Oh, I love it, and I love it how it has this way that you can see that it's always in sort of perpetual reconciliation. You know what I mean? Because that when you're doing it in an Excel, you kind of have to reconcile it all the time. So it's giving you alert if something is off. You can see if it does, if there's a difference, that something is off. So I love it. I think it's great. And I hate it when everything is broken down on the balance sheet. I like to be able to have everything on a separate schedule and then have one line. So for me, I'm excited. I'm going to definitely start using it.
Well, there you go. We got one. All right. Well, Ash, thanks again for joining us here today. I appreciate you again, talking about how this tool can save accountants and their firms a lot of time in that busy crunch time of year with nettTracker. Just a kind of update. We are going to take a 3-week hiatus, so we'll be back in 3 weeks. Because if you have been following anything about me personally on Facebook, my wife got her ankle fused on Monday, and those follow-ups are exactly at the same time of our workshop. So we'll just take a couple weeks off there, and then we'll be back up with a new session on the workshop Wednesday. But Ash, again, thank you again for joining us today, and Rachel, always great to see you. Ash, any closing thoughts? Not closing.
No, well, just to say, Dan, Rachel, thank you very much for having me on. It's always a pleasure, and I've only just met you today, Rachel. Dan, I've known you a couple of years now, and always great to catch up. Yeah, we've got plenty of support, articles and everything available in nettTracker as well. So, with my sort of support background, I've tried to make it as user friendly as humanly possible, and I'm always trying to sort of update that as well. And I'm always listening to feedback from anyone that's using it. So, all of the little tweaks that we make and are about to make some huge ones, over the next few months, are all basically based on what our users have sort of said. This would be easier if we did that, or if we could do this, and so everything is taken on board. So
is it netttracker.com?
Yeah, so the website is nett-tracker.com.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure we have to do. There was a reason why we have to do that way to begin with, but that's
it is
difference. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm bookmarking it right now.
There we go. All right, so we'll see you next time on the workshop Wednesday, and we'll hope everybody has a great week ahead.
Thanks. See ya. Take care.